We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Women's Lacrosse Through the Decades. Tonight we have the decades of the 2000s, and we've got an outstanding group of alumni joining us. And there will join head coach Jackie Dando and one of our current student athletes, Sarah Monteleone. I knew I was going to mess that name up, Sarah. I apologize. And we're happy Sarah's joining us. Sarah is in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, a junior attacker on the team, and we're happy to have her on the call. My name is Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger, our sponsor for this event. Geisinger has done a fantastic job throughout the pandemic, helping the community and serving our communities, as well as the outstanding job they do on a daily basis with our student athletes here at Bucknell. So thank you to Geisinger. Without any further ado, let me introduce our guest and coach. We've got some real great accolades here, and I wonder if you're going to ask any of these ladies if they have any eligibility left, but we'll get to that in a minute. So our first guest from the class of 2003 is Suzanne Raphael. She was the team captain in 2003. She's the Bucknell career record holder with 144 goals. She ranks third on the career points chart with 173. She was an All-Patriot League second team selection in 2000 and 2001. She was the Patriot League Rookie of the Year also in the year 2000. She was an All-Patriot League first team selection in 2002 and 2003. In addition, in 2003, Suzanne was the Patriot League Offensive Player of the Year. In that year as well, on the academic side, she was a Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year for women's lacrosse. She played in the North-South All-Star Game in 2003, and she won the Lee S. Budrank Memorial Award at the Senior Awards Dinner. Suzanne was elected into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2014. Our next guest from the class of 2006 is Rachel Prowler. Rachel was a team captain in 2006. She ranked 7th on the career ground balls chart with 120. She was an All-Patriot League first team selection in 2004, 2005, and 2006, and she was the Patriot League Defensive Player of the Year in 2006. She, too, participated in the North-South All-Star Game, that being in the year 2006. And our next guest from the class of 2009, Bonnie Buechel. Bonnie was she ranks 3rd all-time at Bucknell with 129 career goals. She ranks 4th on the career points chart with 171. She ranks 5th on the career ground balls chart with 135. And she ranks 4th on the career caused turnovers chart with 78. She owns the school single game record with 11 draw controls against St. Francis in 2007, as well as the career mark with 164. She was an All-Patriot League second team selection in 2008 and an All-Patriot League first team selection in 2006, 2007, and 2009. She was also All-Mid-Atlantic Region second team selection in 2009. And our next guest from the class of 2011 is Julia Braun. She was a team captain in 2010 and 2011. She ranks 7th all-time at Bucknell with 116 career goals. She ranks 6th on the career ground balls chart with 132. She owns a share of the school's single game record with 8 ground balls against Lehigh in 2009. She ranks 3rd on the career draws control chart with 160, and she ranks 7th on the career caused turnovers chart with 76. She was an All-Patriot League second team selection in both 2009 and 2010. And our final guest from the class of 2011 is Alyssa DeLorenz. She was the team captain in 2011. She ranks 3rd in career saves at Bucknell with 689. She was All-Patriot League second team in 2011. She was All-Patriot League first team in 2009 and also the Patriot League Goalie of the Year in that season. She was a Patriot League All-Academic Team member in 2011, the Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year in women's lacrosse in both 2009 and 2011. Nationally, she was an All-District selection in 2009 and 2011, and she was an Academic All-American first team selection in 2011. Alyssa won the Alvin F. Jackson Jr. Memorial Scholar Athlete Award at the Senior Awards Dinner. So, Coach, it's a great group. I'm going to turn it over to you and Sarah.
All right, thanks, Todd. Hi, guys. Nice to meet everyone. Thanks for taking your time tonight to spend a little bit of time on the Zoom. I just came in January, so I apologize for not meeting everyone yet so far. We were hoping to do an alumni game this fall, but hopefully it'll still be on when we can get everyone back to campus. But my first question for our group is what you have been doing since you graduated from Buechel. If you can share a little bit about your career path, your family, anything personal, where you're living that you want to share. So Rachel, can we start with you?
Sure. So I reside in Philadelphia, recently purchased my first home. It's a condo. I guess that still classifies as a home. Moved during the COVID craziness. So that's kind of a big update for me. Professionally, I work for Pepsi in brand marketing. Started that about a year and a half ago. Prior to that, I was in the sports marketing world for about 15 years. And personally, it's just myself. I'm welcoming a puppy in early October. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me personally, but that's kind of the update.
Awesome, thank you. Alyssa?
That's funny, Rachel, we've got some similarities going on. I'm currently working for Pepsi too. I started off my career with Johnson & Johnson, to a smaller company after that, but I've been with Pepsi about 5 years now. I also just recently bought my first house, so there you go. Just moved back to Plano, which is actually where I graduated from. I've got a husband, Ryan. We've been married a couple of years, and I've got almost a 1-year-old daughter.
Wonderful. Suzanne?
Hi, I'm in Philadelphia like Rachel, and live here with my husband and Jeff, and we have a 2.5-year-old daughter, Amelia. And I actually have my own business to do research and consulting work for financial services firms, so the heads of the 401k businesses at those firms. And I'm also welcoming a new puppy in a week, so we'll have a golden retriever added to the mix shortly. So, yeah.
Bonnie.
Hey there. So I'm currently living in the Hershey, Pennsylvania area. I go to, I work at the Penn State Hershey Medical Center. I'm in my family medicine residency in my final year. So I'm currently looking for a job all over the country, thinking about maybe moving to Denver next year. And I am alone here. I purchased my first home, but I plan to rent it once I move. And I adopted a cat during the pandemic, so I haven't been as alone here. But things are going well.
Cool, thank you. And Julia.
Hello, it's so nice to see everybody. I am currently an assistant strength and conditioning coach and upper school and middle school fitness education teacher at the Pingree School in New Jersey. That's where I live too. I live in Somerville, New Jersey, which is like central Jersey. I just completed 1 year of marriage through a pandemic, which was difficult because we live in a very small apartment and we were both working from home. But it's just me, my husband, and my 7-year-old dog hanging out here, just doing fun things.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so Jackie, this is the right time, right?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, so Jackie got a chance to hear a little bit about where you guys all are now and what you're all up to. I thought it'd be a good idea, since Jackie's brand new to our program and the new head coach of the program, if she could tell you all a little bit about her background, where she's come from, and what her experience has been like so far at Buechel, although it's drastically cut short just weeks into her first season as head coach. But Jackie, if you can go ahead and fill everybody in, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm excited to be on this Zoom, guys, because I think this is my decade. I graduated college in 2009, so pretty close in age to some of you. I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, so outside of Philadelphia, in the suburbs. I went to Henderson High School outside of Philly, and then I went on to play field hockey and lacrosse at Messiah College, which is a Division III school. Was able to double major and have a great experience there. I started coaching as soon as I graduated, started coaching at Haverford College outside of Philadelphia, and then I went to Villanova, and then I actually took my first head coaching position at a Division III school not far from you, Bonnie, Lebanon Valley College near Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I was there for 7.5 years and built a program there, and it was a great experience. I started from the 3rd year of the program, and last year we won a conference championship and went to the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament. So it was amazing to see that growth, and I was really lucky because I knew all of the alumni by the time I left. I'd coached everyone that had been a senior in the program, so I know how important alumni is to a program, and really look forward to hopefully connecting our team with our great alumni that we've met this week too. Yeah, I mean, my experience with Bucknell has been crazy so far, but good and really encouraging, I think. I came in January and we started practice the same week. I started in the office, so I had to learn names really quickly and just get ready for a season really quickly. Everything else was kind of on the back burner, just focusing on practice and our season at hand. And I think we made a lot of great improvements in a short amount of time. One of the best things I think we've done so far is start a leadership council. Mont's actually a part of it. So we're trying to incorporate a lot of the younger players as well as the older players into communication and decision making. So we got through 8 games. I think we made good improvements on and off the field, and got cut short. So I've actually spent a lot of time up in this area trying to get to know Lewisburg and Bucknell instead of just kind of going home or, being with family during this time, so I can get used to recruiting here and living here. And yeah, it's been very quiet here over the summer, but we're very lucky to have our players back on campus. So that's kind of what it looks like. So we're excited. We're going to start practice in a little bit and hopefully get some good training in before the winter break.
Well, welcome to Lewisburg.
Thank you.
Even quieter than usual, so I'm sure you know the whole town already.
I think that's true, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question, guys, and this is kind of appropriate as September 1st just hit, and if I think about the current recruiting cycle, as some of you do, that's kind of the day to start with the 22 class. So I've been having a lot of phone calls about what attracts recruits to Bucknell, but my first question is how you came to Bucknell and how you came to the women's lacrosse team at Bucknell. Alyssa, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So I was probably a little late to the whole recruiting thing. I'm out of touch with at what age people get recruited these days, but it was late when I started. So it wasn't really until my junior year in high school. And I was in Texas, which lacrosse wasn't particularly big, a decade ago in Texas. And my dad found this team called X Team that took non-traditional players and gave them visibility. So I actually had Amy Appelt as my coach, which was pretty cool. And we had a camp at UVA, and it just happened to be that Jess was there, and I saw the two of them talking to each other. They called me over, they asked me some questions and stuff. And when they heard I had decent grades, they got excited. And basically I did a recruiting, visit from there. And it was kind of the best combination of academics, athletics of my options. So that's how I landed at Bucknell.
Awesome. Suzanne, how did you end up at Bucknell?
For me, I was looking for a good balance of being able to play lacrosse and play competitively, play Division I, but also have some balance to be able to do things like go abroad and not have it be the only part of my college experience. So I looked at a lot of different Patriot League schools. My dad went to Lehigh, so like a stubborn teenager, I didn't want to go there. And I went to recruiting visits on a lot of the Patriot League schools, and I just felt most at home with the team and felt most comfortable about my visit. So I went early decision to Bucknell.
Awesome. Rachel.
Yeah, I echo many of the same sentiments as Suze. It was definitely the balance between athletics and academics. I also played soccer. So for me, I was actually being recruited probably a little bit more heavily for soccer than lacrosse. So in addition to the sort of academic athletic combo, it was also who would let me play 2 sports, which not many Division I schools, even if they're recruiting you for both, will let you skip the off season. So that was a big factor for me, just being able to play 2 sports for a bit. And similar to Sue's, it was kind of, I looked at a lot, like all of the Patriots and a few D3 schools, and it felt right. I think the coaches did a great job in terms of recruitment, but then the campus is beautiful and academics speak for themselves, and it just felt right.
Makes sense. Bonnie, do you want to share your story to getting to Buechel?
Sure. I actually was a walk-on to the team. The year that I came on, there were already 12 freshman recruits that came on, so I was nervous about that whole situation. But when I was initially looking for colleges, I was definitely looking at the academics portion first, because I had just torn my ACL and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to play in college. But I really loved Bucknell. I loved that they had a really strong science programs, especially engineering and biology. So I was kind of deciding between those two. But kind of like Suzanne mentioned, I was also looking for a program that allowed you to study abroad, as my plan was always to go to Spain in my junior year. And I think it was the first or second day of school. Once I came here, I walked into the coach's office and introduced myself and asked if I could try out. So I was a bit nervous, but I was really grateful they kept me on.
That's awesome. And then Julia.
Sure. I desperately wanted to play lacrosse in college, and I had all but like given up because I had gotten a lot of no's, like, no, like you're not good enough, or no, we're not looking for your style of player. And so I attended small camps the summer going into my senior year. And it just so happens that Jess was working that camp, and she was like, are you committed somewhere? Are you going anywhere? And I was like, no. She goes, have you heard of Bucknell? And I'm like, yeah, my cousin goes there. And so she's like, why don't you come on campus? And then when I came on campus, I fell in love with it, and I did more research. And like Bonnie, like I really wanted to go into a science like biology. So kind of fell in love as soon as I stepped on campus.
That's a very common theme we hear from current players still. So the second question is, talk about how you matured as a player on the field from day one of freshman year until your senior season. Bonnie, do you want to start us?
Sure. I remember coming on first day, super scared. Everyone around me, I remember seeing Prowler there, being like, oh my gosh, they're so good. Like, am I going to be able to make this team? But, you know, eventually like stuck with it, and really enjoyed my time there. And by the end of my senior year, I think the way I matured was definitely having more confidence in my ability to get things done that I knew I could do by that point in the game. And, you know, I have some distinct memories of the game where I thought, you know, I could score this goal, like I could do this right now for this play. And I think my teammates had backed me up at that point, and there were some things I was able to do that year before that I probably never would have thought I could do, just from the confidence.
Awesome. Rachel, what was your experience like?
Yeah, I think it's the confidence piece. I think maybe my experience is, again, a little unique because I had missed the off season. So when everyone else was getting to know each other freshman year, I was playing soccer. So I know my class was like, we heard about you, but we didn't know you. And so I think there was even more sort of trepidation when I showed up in the winter, because I was new to the team and I had missed a bunch of months and that whole thing. So I feel like I showed up, I don't know, Susan, you probably were the only one there, right? But I was pretty quiet. I think I just try to like make it happen in terms of my play and, you know, just fit in. And then I would say by the time Bonton came around, I was probably much more vocal. And that to me is probably my evolution of just kind of being more of a vocal leader, having a little bit more confidence in terms of being kind of a coach on the field. And then, you know, overall, I started playing lacrosse when I was in 9th grade. So by the time I was a freshman, it was really only my 5th year ever picking up a stick. So I still felt like by the time I was graduating, like every year I was getting better. So not only was it a confidence thing, but it was actually the skills, which of course is also credit to the team and the coaches and all the rest of it. But I would say that's kind of my evolution.
Alyssa, what was your experience like?
So I would say it was kind of like complete night and day from when I started to where I ended. You know, I mentioned being from Texas and it just wasn't as big of a deal down there. I mean, I had never lifted weights before. I'd never done conditioning. I didn't know what film meant. So it was just completely, you know, green basically joining. And I probably asked Bonnie to stay after practice or come early to practice. I don't know, what was it, like half the days to just try to get up to speed. And I would say it was a little baptism by fire that first year because I think the goalie ahead of me quit like very early on. And so, you know, I wasn't expecting to have to play that role freshman year. So it was a lot of just trying to like, you know, keep my head above water. By the time I got to, you know, my sophomore year, I felt a little more confident. I had that year under my belt and stuff. But I still remember Colleen kind of getting on me like that I could still take my game higher and that sort of thing. And I think by the time I got to my junior year, I was really taking it seriously and embracing like kind of the continuous improvement and building on things. So I would say it was quite the evolution of maturing throughout my time at Buechel.
Yeah, that's great. Suzanne?
Yeah, I think for me, it's very similar to what folks described in terms of confidence. When I started out my freshman year, I just really wanted to make an impact, but I was timid and trying to figure out where I fit in and get to know everyone on the team and figure out what my role is. And for me, my sophomore year, before the end of the season, I tore my ACL. So that was a couple of steps backwards for me. I lost a bit of confidence in my game, and then went abroad and kind of had to come back and restart and get back in shape. And even when you're back in shape, I wasn't what I thought I could be. And then having the opportunity to be a captain senior year and play a different role where you are more confident and more vocal, and want to take on more responsibility for the team. So I think kind of that was the full evolution for me. Yeah.
And then Julia.
Cool. I guess a little bit of the same, but I was super, super pumped. I kind of hit the ground running. I feel like when I came in as a freshman, might have rubbed people the wrong way a little bit, but I was kind of just like, wow, everybody can play well. Like everybody can run, everybody can move. So I think that a lot of my growth came in like my emotional maturity, where it wasn't intensity all the time. Sometimes it had to be being a positive leader and not being so hard on yourself. So I think that, you know, while my game definitely got a lot better, and I soaked everything up like a sponge, I think that my biggest growth was in like pretty much like how to interact with people inside and outside of sports on the field.
Awesome, thanks guys. The next question is, what was your most memorable experience as a member of the team? Bonnie, do you want to start us?
Sure. I had a lot of memorable experiences, but one that came to mind first was, I think it was my senior year. We were playing Lehigh, and it was a night game, and we went into like, was it triple overtime or something? Maybe double. I could be exaggerating, but anyway, it was like a really tough game, and I remember we were planning on scoring this goal, and we made a play. I got a pass from behind from one of our teammates. Carol, I rolled in front, did a fake, shot low, bounced it to the corner, and it went in. And at first, I didn't realize it went in. And I turned and looked at my teammate, Chelsea Peters, and she was freaking out, running at me. And then it hit me that, oh my gosh, we just won. So that was like kind of a surreal experience, and we all like jumped together and cheered. So that was a really fun victory against them.
Julia, do you have a favorite memory?
Oh, so many. I think that my favorite one, just because it's really funny. So my freshman year, we ended up beating Ohio State. It's 18-17, right? But at halftime, we were down 11-3, and everybody was like really down. And the marching band was sitting in the stands, like taunting us, like just, being really mean. And so we end up winning that game. It was a battle, a goal a minute, really, 18-17. And then I think at the end, I had like turned the ball over like twice. And I was like, I had to play attack because I was injured at that point. And I was like yelling across the lines, like, sorry, Alyssa, I know there's only like a minute left. And I was trying to hold on to the ball. But then Alyssa made 2 like incredible saves right at the end of the game, including an 8-meter with like 8 seconds left. And we won by 1 goal. And then, but like the film is like on everybody doing the dog pile. And then you see me like running off the screen because I'm running to go hug Alyssa. Alyssa and I were close and you just see me running off the screen. But that was probably one of my most memorable experiences just because it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun game.
Alyssa, do you remember that?
Yeah, I actually was going to say the same story, but a little different version of it. So I didn't even remember Jules making the saves at the end. Like, I didn't even remember that happened. I remember
3 in a row.
Yeah, I remember Greg's like halftime speech, basically. It was pretty motivating. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember there was like a fire under us because we were down by so much, and it's like, we'll never do this, but like, let's come from behind. And then all of a sudden we did, and there's probably games I played way better than that game. I don't remember anything as much as I remember that Ohio State game and just that like celebration afterwards. And I don't think they ever played us again. Like, there's nothing better than a team dropping you after you beat them. So.
Awesome. Rachel, do you have a favorite memory?
I feel like that's not fair to go after that. I mean, you've got 3 people saying the same story. So like, no.
I had to pick one, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like my story was going to be, again, like way less cool than all that. I mean, because what I remember are more of the like everydays. I think that there are always those competitions. There's always, like always the Colgate game or a crazy game at Rutgers where I couldn't feel my feet or my hands or my body. Like there's just stuff. But for me, when I think back about the program, it's the everyday. It's, seeing your best friends, your pals, like at practice doing something stupid and you're like, why are we doing this? And it's like, you do it again the next day. It's just, so for me, my memories are more of like the everyday. And again, that's a way less cool response to like that Ohio State game. But that to me is like, my best memory is just like kind of the everyday.
Awesome. Suzanne, anything else?
Super pumped about that Ohio State story, and I was nowhere near there. I was long gone, but my freshman year was much uglier at Ohio State, and I was not pleased when we left. I'm not even sure we scored a goal, so thank you for the vindication. I appreciate that. My favorite is probably my senior year, and Rachel was there for this. We played Colgate in the quarterfinals of the Patriot League tournament, and we had never beat Colgate my entire career at Bucknell. That was the first time we beat Colgate. And it was just, who knows how much of this is revisionist history, but when I remember it, it was everything flowing pretty from Coles, who was our goalie at the time, clearing the ball out nice, out to Rachel, going up the field, and it was pretty connections all the way up where the ball just moved so nicely, and we hit all of our shots, and it felt like a really good game for everybody. It didn't feel like any one person was doing all the work. Like everything just clicked. And I remember at the end of the game just running down the field, and Nicole and I were the only 2 seniors at the time. We started with a class of 7. We were the only 2 left at the end, and I just remember running down the field to jump on top of her and be like, we did it. We didn't do it the next day, but we did it that day, and it was awesome. So it was pretty great. Yeah.
Suzanne, your memory is pretty good. That Ohio State game, 17-0.
Yeah, you don't forget that. That was a rough. And we rode back in a van. So when you have to drive from Ohio back to Pennsylvania, you have a lot of time to sit with that. It's a long trip.
Okay, next we're gonna kick it to Sarah for a question.
So my question is, what advice would you give me or any of our other current players in our program today about the college experience at Bucknell, college lacrosse experience at Bucknell? So Alyssa, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I would say enjoy every moment. It flies by super quickly. while each sprint, early morning workout, hard practice, what have you, it doesn't feel great like in the moment. It makes you so much like stronger, more resilient, mentally tough through all of that experience. I'll, oftentimes look back on things and wish I had some of the insights I have now and could relive it back, start from fresh. But I would say, the main thing I would say, assume positive intent all the time. Sometimes I would think, oh, I'm just getting ragged on or something like that. And, when I look back, I'm like, no, like, Colleen saw something, she was pushing me to take me to the next level. And I wish I had some of those insights kind of in the moment. It took me a little bit to like pick up on that. So that would be some of my suggestions.
Thank you. What about you, Rachel? What advice would you give?
Yeah, I think we're all probably going to say like, don't waste a minute, kind of like remember everything, but that's just old people talking. So I think we'll all probably end up saying that. I would also say like, be kind to yourself. I think that, these are like impressionable years. And I think similar to what Alyssa was saying, like, assume positive versus negative, and maybe similar to Julia, like I was sort of one of those people that was tough on everybody, including myself. So I would just say like, enjoy it. Obviously everyone kind of grows in different ways. And some of that could be just being hard on yourself, but have fun, enjoy it, smile. It's a game. So, be competitive, but do it with a smile.
Awesome. And Suzanne, what would your advice be?
I'd echo a lot of what was said. I'm sure all of us wouldn't give anything to go back and do it again. It wouldn't nearly look as pretty, but make the most of it. And the other thing I would say is ask for what you need. I think sometimes you get in your head a little bit. You'd be thinking about a game, and you just ask for help and say, I'm thinking this. Do I need help with that? Whether it's for a coach or a teammate. I think over communication is better. I think to some extent that's what people are talking about with others have positive intentions, right? They're trying to make you the best team and the best player that you can be. So the more you can talk about it and get that kind of feedback and just make the most of it so you leave everything on the field. I think that's how I always wanted to feel. So.
Thank you. And Bonnie, do you have similar advice, or what would your advice be?
I was thinking about this. Couple pieces of advice. I don't know, just one thing, but one thing that I like to do in college is take pictures, like document things, because someday you're going to look back if you can't really remember it. And I have tons of pictures from college, which have been always nice to scroll through memory lane. The other things more specific to like lacrosse and playing a sport, make sure that you're trying to connect with your teammates in different ways. You might have a best friend on the team, but like it's always good to still try to bond and find your connections with everybody, and because every person on your team matters and is important and all part of that big puzzle of your team. So making the conscious effort to try to relate to each person, even if you don't necessarily spend all your spare time together, although you might.
And you, Julia?
I would say just like insert yourself into your teammates' lives. Go to the movies with a freshman, but then go to lunch with your best friends. I know you guys have a big team, like 40 people, right? So not everybody gets to hang out all the time. So I think it's really important just to like once a week or once, every couple of weeks, just to make sure you like insert yourself into a group of people that you don't necessarily hang out with all the time, because you're going to value the everyday, like we all do, right? All our memories are, oh, do you remember that time we went to the movies and it snowed? Like little things, but dumb things, but you don't have those if you don't make an effort to be friends with everybody on the team.
Thank you. Coach, does it go back to you now?
Thanks, Matt. Okay, we're starting to keep going through them. The next question is, who was a favorite teammate or a teammate you admired, and why? Rachel, do you want to start us off?
You asked that, and of course I have teammates on here, so how do you not pick one? Suze, obviously. No, I mean, but in reality, I would say Suze is definitely one of the, like she said, she and Nicole were the two seniors when I was a freshman, so certainly looked up to those two. I would say it was a tie because Nicole, as Suze knows, is a ton of personality, and I play defense, so she was right behind me. So I would say between she and Nicole, they were just, again, as freshmen, as, tremendous seniors, both kind of on and off the field, that they both had a lasting impression on me. So you get the nod, Suze, because you're on the call, but you can tell her that I gave her 50%.
Suze, did you have a favorite teammate to play with?
Yeah, I think I'm going to cheat. And I was trying to narrow it down, but since Rachel went with two, I might have to give you two because one of ours is the same. So being an offensive player and getting to warm up every day for 4 years with a goalie who was also defensive player in the year, and in my opinion, the best goalie in the Patriot League. That means something. It helped me as a player, and she's just a ton of fun. We're still very good friends. We're at each other's weddings and all of that good stuff. So she's great. And I think there is something when you're younger about the older kids that you play with and that you come in to learn with, like your first couple of years. So for me, when I was younger coming into play, there was a girl named Ashley Evans who played at Severna Park in Maryland, and she was tall and had this like loud, contagious laugh, and she could roll the crease like nobody else. And she fed me balls I couldn't even wrap my head around when I was a freshman. And I think they quoted me saying something to that effect in like my second week of school as a freshman. And I was mortified, like, oh God, like that was probably too aggressive of a compliment. But anyway, she was just a wonderful person, fun to be around, and a great ball feed and just a really good player. So even to this day, like still one of my favorite people to play with. It was just a lot of fun to be working together on attack. So those were my two. Yeah. And Rachel always gave me a run for my money, even as a freshman. Don't let her let you think she was quiet. She came right in with a bang. So.
Alyssa, did you have a favorite teammate to play with?
I would say, I mean, obviously I love playing with Jules. In terms of who I looked up to is Bonnie, and I'm not saying both of those because people are on the call, but the passion and like determination, like sheer grit. I don't know if you guys have seen The Last Dance, and they have all the kind of insights as to MJ's personality, and that's like Bonnie. That was Bonnie, right? Except she wasn't really mean about it, like it sounded like MJ was. But she just set that example and always tried to continue to elevate her game. And I just remember as a freshman being like, I gotta be like her kind of thing. And that's why I always, I mentioned I get her to practice with me all the time because I wanted her to help me, bring my game up. So.
Awesome. All right, Bonnie, we're gonna send it to you then.
Oh gosh, I have quite a few. Prowler is on the call, and she's definitely one of the first people that came to mind. I always looked up to her. She had a very strong but calm presence on the field. She's back, but also you could tell she just worked really hard and was always super fun and inclusive outside of practices and games. So I really admired her for her leadership role on the team. I would say another person who's not on the call, I'll give a shout out to Lauren Creamer, aka Kramer. She was also great to play with, really fun. She was a midi like me, and also sometimes played a little bit more defense, but enjoyed playing with her. She was a great role model too on and off the field because she was also a bio major and was interested in the sciences too, and it helped me believe that it's still possible to go into the medical field even while playing a D1 sport and still finish all 4 years doing that. But of course, looking to my younger class, I absolutely loved playing with both Julia and Alyssa. I would say they were both, my very close teammates for the rest of my time there, especially, with the transition of having a new coach when I came back from abroad my junior year. It was really difficult, but they were always supportive and awesome to play with, always great energy, always wanting to learn and get better. And that was kind of my that I tried to put out too. So, I think we were attracted to each other for that. I'm very grateful to have played with all of them.
Thanks, Bonnie. And then Julia.
Well, I'm gonna have to say Bonnie really set the bar. Like I felt like I was always trying to catch up to her. Like she's a biomechanical wonder, because I'm like, how did your muscles not shut off after tearing your ACL, and how can I be as fast as you? But it was always just something like, her and I were pretty competitive with one another anyway, like taking the draw, getting draws, getting ground balls, supportive while still really pushing each other, and her perseverance through everything. I mean, even after Bucknell, I feel like you're really persevering in your career too, which is pretty cool to look up to. And I've admired that as well. So Bonnie, you were my driving force all through college. Alyssa, I like playing with you, but
All right, thank you guys. Mont, do you have another question for them?
Yes. So my question is, what advice do you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell? Julia, do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. I loved Bucknell while I was there, but I love Bucknell even more after the fact. Because if I'm wearing a Bucknell shirt, this happened to me multiple times. I ran a 5K in Boston, and from the sidelines, somebody's like, yeah, be you, like, because I had my Bucknell shirt on, and then afterwards they came and talked to me. And I ended up making a connection just through that for my career. And so it's a really, I feel like, at least in my experience, a very genuine alumni group, a very inclusive alumni group anywhere you go. Like right now I work with 13 other Bucknell alumni, and everybody's always open to talking, but going to the networking events, or like reaching out to people, or even just wearing your Bucknell gear around. Like, I feel like you're always going to come up with people, and you shouldn't be afraid to talk to anybody, or like, hey, this person works at this company, reach out to them and be like, do you have any advice for me? I do that a lot. And it's really helped me grow in my career and everything.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. Suzanne, what about you? What advice do you have about networking?
Yeah, I'd say that the more of it you can do, the better. I mean, I think for me, it was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, maybe, to just reach out to people that you maybe knew through Bucknell or through a friend. And I feel like the older I get, the less awkward it seems, or the less I'm always happy to do it. So I think when you're reaching out to someone that's had a lot of different career experience, especially someone, I love it when student athletes reach out to me. I love it when I can, talk to someone else and relive my glory days that played sports. Anyone from Bucknell, I'm always happy to have lunch. And if I can't help, I'm happy to connect to someone. Because really that stuff will pay itself forward, because you do it for someone, they'll do it for you somewhere else down the line. It really does work that way. So it's worth the time. So I would say if it comes easy to you, great, do it up. And if it doesn't, force yourself to do it, because it really will, it'll pay off. And also wearing the Bucknell gear, that definitely still happens. And people stop and chat with you. And definitely in random places, I've been in Paris and seen someone in Bucknell gear, been like, wow, hey, hey, how you doing? Where'd you go to Bucknell, right? So any excuse for that, I think, is awesome. So, yeah.
Thank you. Alyssa, what about you?
I think similar to what a lot of people have said already. I mean, do it as much as you possibly can. Use LinkedIn, the career network, etc. Similar to Suzanne, I love it when I get a random cold call from some Bucknellian. I never think like, oh, who is this? And just, ignore it. Like, I'm very excited to kind of get to hear what's going on at Bucknell and help people navigate their career paths, a little bit of pay it forward. I would say leverage every connection you have, because quite frankly, a lot about getting jobs is who you know, and what connections you make. Maybe it doesn't sound fair, but that's the reality of it a lot of times. And I would say don't get defeated if you keep trying and you don't land things. I always like to tell people the story of my junior year. I got denied 10 internships in a row before I finally got one. And it put me on the path basically of how I landed where I am today because of that. So don't ever get defeated with, continual what might feel like rejection, because there's probably something better waiting down the road.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Please excuse my little cat here. It keeps trying to make a little entrance, but as far as connections and ways to leverage that, I think in college I did an externship, so I was able to rotate at a hospital with an actual doctor, and it was an amazing experience. I was really glad that Bucknell had offered that. Since that time, I know I had been using LinkedIn, but I hadn't been networking too much because I've just been in school forever. But once I finally get out and look out into the job market, I definitely plan to reach out and utilize the Bucknell network and try to make more connections. But everybody that I've ever come across who's a Bucknellian has always been super warm and welcoming and excited to share their experience and help out in any way. And that's how I plan to be too.
Thank you. And last but not least, Rachel.
Ditto. No, just kidding. So yeah, networking, obviously incredibly important. I would say, like Sue said, I think it comes naturally to some and maybe not so much for others. So force yourself to have those awkward conversations, write that email, have that phone call. I would also say, pursue something that you are passionate about. I know we're not talking about career advice per se, but I know that there are the traditional paths, and then there are things that people just are excited by. And, for me, sports marketing was one of those things people were like, oh, that's a shiny toy, but it was just something I was super passionate about, and I wasn't going to let someone say I couldn't do it, that I wasn't a male, et cetera, et cetera. So pursue what you love, and absolutely tap into the network. Bucknellians everywhere. I lived in New York for 8 years, and Manhattan is full of them. Philadelphia is full of them. So we're everywhere. I would also say, I also got an MBA and a grad degree, and I know Bonnie's still in school for 1,000 years and all that stuff. So it doesn't end there too, right? So Bucknell, great connections, but, as you continue, if you get a additional degree, like it just keeps helping. So yeah, no specific advice other than, definitely ask for your help. Ask those around you. They're willing to help, I'm sure.
Thank you. Okay, I think this is the last question, guys. And then we will let you have the rest of your night and get to relax a little bit after a long day, probably of work. But the last question is, if you have any advice for myself as a new head coach of the program. Julie, I know you've been pretty involved in the program, playing and coaching. So this one's right up your alley. But any advice for myself as a new head coach here at Bucknell for the first time? Julie, you want to start us off?
Sure. I think that the biggest advice and the biggest thing I've learned through like all of my experiences, even in coaching, is just honest communication. More importantly, I guess, effective communication, because you never know what can come out in like a negative way. But, practicing, brushing up on those skills and having, truthful, honest conversations. I think that sometimes we give those younger than us less credit than they deserve for what they're able to do emotionally and that kind of stuff. So, being that positive influence and that giving students that respect, I think is really important.
Absolutely. Bonnie, any advice?
Yeah. It sounds like you have quite a big team to work with this year. Some things that I think about for coaching is, similar to what Julia said, making sure that you respect the players and don't underestimate what they're capable of handling or understanding, but also know that they're still, teens, young 20s, so they might still be dealing with things stressful or emotional, and they may not be as forthcoming about it to you directly, but being able to show that you're open and honest with them to create an environment that they feel that they're able to come to you when they have issues. The other thing too is respecting them as a student first before being an athlete. I know that athletics is a huge part of our lives when we were in college, but making sure that if they are expressing a desire to complete something academically, hopefully you can accommodate that as opposed to potentially making it more difficult or them, because ultimately, we want our athletes also to thrive as students at Bucknell.
Yeah, absolutely. Alyssa?
I think I would say focus on your team's strengths, activating them, encouraging them, rewarding them. I found whether it's in sports, my career, my personal life, right, we'll tend to focus on weaknesses, and I'm not saying, you push those aside or anything like that, but you tend to be a more inspirational leader and coach if you can kind of lock into strengths and really like reward and encourage those as more of the focal point than harping on, why couldn't you run this faster, or why didn't you score that goal, or change this, change that. So that would be my advice.
Rachel, any advice?
Yeah, I guess the best coaches I've had are the ones that can adapt to who they have, right? So, one year you may have, I don't know, an amazing, individual attacker, and you build some plays around them, or the next year it's more of a team dynamic, and those coaches that were able to adjust to the team versus the team adjusting to the coach, because I've also had it that way, I think we're the most successful. So being adaptive, having flexibility in terms of the way you coach. Certainly, some of the things that the other ladies have said in terms of, focusing on positives are always great. But also just showing that you're in the trenches with them. To me, again, for my career, those coaches that I felt like had my back and that we were in it together, those are the ones I kind of remember respecting the most. And that doesn't mean we need to be pals, but it means that we need to kind of have a mutual respect, and that's earned on both sides. So to me, it was, do you know what you're doing? Can you show that you are adaptive, that you know how to coach? And in turn, I will do whatever it is that you're asking me to do. And so for me, it's all about kind of showing your chops in terms of flexibility with the players you have, and then your willingness to kind of back them up along the way, whether it be something trivial around their personal lives or something about lacrosse or what have you, just having their back.
Yep, super important. Suzanne, any other advice?
For me, I think, and I think some other folks have said it, having an open door policy, like always feeling like I could go talk to my coach for what I needed was really important. And then just recognizing the different ways people are motivated. For me, I was always harder on myself than probably anybody else ever could be. You could say if someone said they were disappointed in me, I probably thought about it for the next 3 weeks. I didn't need to be yelled at. And there were other people I know that like a fire lit under them. It's just a different kind of approach. So I always really valued a coach that knew the difference and went right there, as opposed to approaching everyone the same. So those would be my two things.
Awesome. Well, I think that's our last question, you guys. Thanks so much for taking time to join us and connecting back to our program. This was so helpful for me to get to know you guys and the history of the program. I think, obviously there's been changes, and you guys have even been through the changes, but everything you gave to the program makes it what it is now to be able to keep growing in the future. So we'd love to keep individually connecting, and just want to thank you guys again.
Well, awesome. So I'll wrap us up, and I'll turn it to Sarah. And Sarah, thank you for joining the call tonight, and best of luck this semester here on campus. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed that you're playing competitive games in the spring, and we wish you well with that. And to the alums, Coach stole my fire. She said it really well. And, first of all, thanks for being on the call. But secondly, I'm going to ask your help with something that's really important for Bucknell women's lacrosse. And I've talked with Jackie about this a bunch already. And granted, she's got to get her fingers wrapped around her team and figuring out how to do all that on the field. But one of the things we really want to do is we need to reconnect the Bucknell women's lacrosse family. There's been a lot of coaches over the years, and because of that, our family is a little bit fractured. So one of the things Coach and I will definitely look to do is to reunite everybody in the women's lacrosse family, not just those that played for so-and-so coach or so-and-so coach, but bring everybody together as one. And we've already talked about whether that's alumni weekend or what that might be, but just know that, you know, we might reach back out to you all for your support with that and help. And I think it's really important to get the program back on that footing, not only for the alums that were involved in it, but for the current student athletes as well, because they can all turn to you for help. As we just mentioned, Sarah asking her question about networking, you'll never turn down a call from a women's lacrosse player. I know that, but it's just, it'll help build that whole family. So I appreciate it that you were on tonight. I thank you for everything you've done for the program in the past, how you represented our team on the field, and how you represent Bucknell in your everyday life. And for those of you that tuned in tonight at home to watch, we thank you for doing that, and go Bison.